Good morning, everybody. Can you guys see me and hear me? Let me know. I'm doing this from a new streaming software, so kind of testing this to make sure this is working. Good morning, good morning. Cool. Appears to be working. Good morning, Blair. Sachin, David, good morning. Ray, good morning. Can you guys hear me and see my screen? This screen. Cool. People are saying they can hear me and see me. Start getting into the analysis in just a moment. Give people a minute to join. How did everybody have a good night? Good day yesterday? Yeah, can I hide the chat on my screen? Yeah, let me see. Is that showing up for you guys as well? That is annoying. There we go. Sweet. Did that remove the chat for you guys on the screen as well? I'm trying this new software called StreamYard. I normally just streamed directly from YouTube, but I've heard good things about this. Tried OBS as well, but it's a little more complicated. Good morning, Mike. For those of you joining in on Instagram, the link is in my story and on my bio for the YouTube live stream where I'm sharing my screen. You can stay on longer on here as well. Good morning. A lot of the same crew all tuning in. That's awesome. We'll get going here in just a sec. At all-time highs on the continuous non-adjusted contract for ES. Yeah, I still use the adjusted contract just because of the gap up. And if you are not using that, then I would probably look at like SPX or SPY, which I don't think are at all-time highs. Let me make sure, do I have? There's no contract change. Just making sure it's not adjusted for anything. Yeah, I would probably look at like SPX or SPY. Just, I don't think this is I mean, it's pretty much the same similar action for all-time highs that we've been seeing lately. But just keep in mind, there is that gap up on the forward contract for the futures. So I am looking at the contract adjusted option here on Thinkorswim. So you'll see my prior price back here, not at all-time highs. Actually, let me turn this off and see what it would look like. Yeah. So we would pretty much be right at all-time highs if we were not looking at the contract adjusted. But I do like the contract adjusted. But I also, in addition to the contract adjusted and my other charts, I do look at like VX and look at SPY. So I would look at like where SPY is at overall, which is still under all-time highs. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Came in late. Video quality is lacking. Is it me? Well, I'm doing a different software, it should be streaming in 1080p. Is the quality lower for anyone else than usual? It should be streaming in 1080p, which should be the same as what I was streaming from on YouTube directly. But let me know if everyone is seeing it in a worse quality. I would check, like Blair is saying it's fine for him. Another person is saying, yeah, it is lower. 1080p confirm here. It's fine, but doesn't look as clear. Okay, good to know. Well, that may just be a downside of streaming with this software versus directly from YouTube. Interesting. 1080p, checked settings. Quality is, it's 1080p, but the quality doesn't look like it's 1080p. It was 1080p before when I was streaming direct from YouTube, and it should still be 1080p, but if the quality is lower, hmm. 1080p was good. Yeah, I would just check your connection and at the bottom and see if you can adjust it. If you have it on the auto, then maybe it's downgrading to like 720 or 480. Just make sure it's selected to 1020. A little fuzzy. All right, we'll roll with it. But if we keep having that issue, and a lot of people have that, then I'm gonna have to stop using this software. See if there's any settings on my end. Yeah, so I see full HD 1080p. Try this touch up button. Yeah, that's the highest that I can do from this thing, which should be the same as what it was before on YouTube, but okay. Well, we'll roll with it. Is it just me, my picture, or is it the whole screen with the chart and everything is grainy, not looking clear? Somebody said you're streaming 1080p format, but the quality is as if you're compressing to 10% quality JPEG. I don't know. It's kind of mixed signals because a lot of people are saying it's fine. A lot of people are not. So I'll test with it again. If we keep having that issue, then I'll switch over to regular YouTube live stream in the future. Chart is blurry. Oh, that sucks. All right, well, we'll make do, but I may have to just go back to using the direct from YouTube live streaming. All right, so we'll start getting into the analysis here. It's going to be a little bit briefer today, just because, like I said, we've kind of gone through the same stuff every day. And not a whole lot has changed. So we're going to just dive right into it. I'll start out at the daily time frame up here, like I do every day. So this is that wedge that I've been talking about for a while as we've been grinding our way back up here. We've had multiple really strong closes recently, and then yesterday was pretty flat consolidation right at the top of this wedge. Mike sent me a screenshot on Discord. Let me see. Yeah, it just looks a little bit more grainy than usual. That's annoying. Well, I tried, guys. Tried to use an actual streaming software, but it may not work out for the next time. So just looking at this daily time frame, like I said, multiple strong closes after we dipped slightly under the bottom of this wedge, came straight back all the way to the top. We've been consolidating here. So just from a higher time for analysis where we're at, looking at the contract adjusted, we're still kind of under prior all-time highs. And the reason I'm looking at this still under because, like I said, if we look at underlying like SPY and not just the futures, the forward contract gapped up, but looking at SPY, we're still just under that all-time highs, right in this area where sellers were present, but we're very close to going ahead and breaking out the regular all-time highs. Oops. So watching this area here a bit, where sellers were present when we rejected, but again, nothing that I'm looking to short. Main game plan today is just looking for any key pullbacks that the market offers where it looks like a good spot to get in long, which I'll go over a little bit on the lower time frames. Main key level is the same one that we talked about yesterday, right around 60.50. Price really hugged that all day yesterday, never got far from it. I took a little scalp off that level when we initially dropped down into it. It partially worked and partially didn't. Got about 9 points out of it, but then it came back and I ended up closing for around 5 points. But it's all good. It was only a 1 point risk. Then yesterday, looking at the wrong chart here. Yesterday, after we dropped down out below that level, it really didn't last long at all, and we went right back to that level. So I continue to watch that 60.50, right around 60.48 level, which we can see here that I marked when we were talking about that yesterday. And to that point, just looking at the 4-hour time frame now, this is that top trend line of that wedge that I've been talking about all week, really multiple weeks, almost for like over a month now. We've been in that wedge. Now we're at the top of it, channel. We've broken out. We really spent a lot of time consolidating right here. And then we dipped a little bit and then, bounced right back up. This alone right here is very bullish structure. This is a setup that I look for often is when the market is uptrending, a rally, a consolidation, a dip under the consolidation. See how we have this little like trend line under there? A lot of people look to take that short on the dip under that trend line, thinking like, the market's going to break down, not really thinking about the fact that all of these buyers are right here, ready to reload if we dip down there. And that's exactly what happened. So we had that rally, consolidation, drop back under that, swept all the liquidity under those lows right into this demand area, and then rocketed right back up to the highs. So that is a setup alone right there that I look for. There you go. You're welcome. Pretty simple. But I did not trade that. I did take a scalp here at the lows yesterday. If you remember, I had a key level at 61.31 that we talked about. And look at that shit. Where did it bounce? You go back and watch the live stream yesterday. This is the exact level that I was talking about, 61.31. And we bounced almost to the tick there on that impulsive drop. I did scalp long off that yesterday afternoon. So, and speaking of, these are kind of the levels that I'm watching going into today, which we have all marked on this intraday trading drawing set. And really, we had this little impulsive drop after the 8:30 news this morning, right at prior day highs, right at this overnight consolidation low, which we'll get into on a lower time frame, 51.59. And then I'm also watching these pre-market highs at 61.70. Drop down to the hourly time frame, and this is where I was marking that low from, right there at 61.59, just because that was the only spot that we kind of closed a red 1 hour candle. Sellers attempted to get in right here on the break above prior day highs, left a wick, but didn't get any continuation lower and continued to grind higher. So that was an important level. Unfortunately, that would have been an A+ setup for me to take long this morning after the 9:30 open on the failed dip under that. But that happened right on the 8:30 news. We wicked it out. We came already back up to 66. So that was already, you know, potentially 3-4 hour scalp back up to the middle. And now we're just kind of consolidating in the middle. So got to stay very patient this morning. Not looking to rush into anything, especially because we're right in the middle of this consolidation. Again, similar to yesterday, we've rallied and then consolidated here for the last, since 3 a.m. We've just been in this range. So if we dip again under here, I would be looking at this trend line, which also lines up around that 6150 key level. I say key level, it's kind of a key area. We call it 6147 into this 6150 area. We briefly broke under that, recaptured it immediately, and then consolidated there. So multiple reasons why that's a key level. Just looking at the hourly time frame, we bounced aggressively off that key level below. We consolidated here. So just very, you know, bull flag structure, rally, base, rally. So this whole area right here is probably the first primary key area that I'm watching today, if we drop that far. If not, if I see a lot of significant absorption and aggressive buying already start coming in up here, then I may look to get it, find a way to get in long based on things that I see in the order flow for a setup, speculating that we go break out the highs. If we break out of these highs, that would be the first target. And then I would probably just be holding to see when either the tape slows down or eventually gravitating towards the 6,200 level. When would you invalidate that trend line? There's not really any point right now that I'm looking to invalidate that trend line. It's a higher time frame level, so I don't totally look to invalidate it on just lower time frame noise. Let's look at this. So I'm not looking to just invalidate it immediately. What is going on? See how it's been respected here. I did adjust this a couple times since I initially drew that, but it's continued to hold steady. And obviously we can see how price reacted when we broke above it. We consolidated right at it. So I'm going to continue to watch it. But after we break out of this here, I'm probably not going to continue to watch this trend line like in the future out here, like weeks out. I'd probably just get rid of that whole structure from my charts at that point. Does that make sense, Mike? So I'm watching it now while it's continuing to react. Like if we reject this and we come back into the middle of this range, then I'll keep it. If we now break out of it and hold like in the next, like this week, like today, tomorrow, then I'll watch it. But then after that, I'm not going to look for it like later next week to react out here. Good question though, Mike. Good question. So that's really the game plan, guys. Like I said, it was a little more brief today. We'll take a look here just on the 15-minute time frame really quick. We've seen pretty much the same structure over and over again this week. Not a ton has changed. Kind of the same higher time frame stuff that I've been watching. Key levels have been adjusted a little bit. Let me look at the volume profile from yesterday. Let's see what we have. So there is a lot of volume just building at these highs, and we did kind of rally up here on lower volume. But that quick dip that we had at 8:30, like right down there under those lows, that was right into the lower volume area before all this volume was built at the highs. So that really would have been just such a nice setup. Unfortunately, it happened right at 8:30. We'll see if it holds today if we drop down there again. Let's see. How can I change my screen that I'm sharing? Give me 1 second, guys. I'm trying. It's not so easy now. Let me see how to change the screen share that I'm sharing. There we go. So this is my volume profile chart that I'm looking at on Sierra chart. You can see when we dropped down there impulsively on news, we swept under these lows that I was talking about from around 3 a.m. right into this area of low volume where we see from 61.57 to around 61.59. So two things there. One, we swept under that overnight low. Two, we went right into this low volume area. And three, looking at Bookmap, there was a lot of absorption right there at that on that drop right around 6:34. Or sorry, 8:34 a.m. this morning. So multiple reasons why that would have been a nice setup, but I don't. And speaking to Mike's question, he asked, do I ever trade in the pre-market? No. Pretty much 99% of the time that I end up opening trades in the pre-market, I usually end up regretting it. Just there's usually quick little moves, and then they lack continuation, consolidate, and then they usually get swept out after the 9:30 open. This morning, right on news, it did work out, but you know, I avoid taking trades where it's like a just this one time type of situation. If it's not something that I'm looking to do on a consistent, regular basis, I'm just not going to take that trade. And I wasn't even at my desk. I just finished my run and I was showering and I got here just like minutes before. Spiffy for you guys. You guys ready to learn from somebody in a suit? Nobody noticed. If you were here yesterday, you get that joke. All right. Listen, I wasn't trying to cook him, Jeff. Hopefully he does come back and learn. But there's plenty of other people out there. If he wants to learn from them, by all means, go ahead. All right. So I think that's all the levels. We got a few minutes before the market opens. If anybody's got any questions, for those of you guys on Instagram, like I said earlier, if you're on Instagram, the link is in my story and in my bio on Instagram for you to join over on the YouTube live stream where I'm sharing my screens. And I will stay on here for a few minutes, or I will stay on the YouTube live stream, and I'm going to be ending the Instagram live stream. Jason, that was funny. Good. I try to sprinkle in a little humor. All right, I'm going to end the live stream on Instagram. If you guys are on Instagram, I recommend joining over on YouTube where I'm sharing my screens, and we'll stay on for the trading session. Peace. Bud. All right. Any other questions on the game plan or anything traded related that you'd like me to cover before the market open at 9:30? Let me know. As far as news today, volume very low today, similar to yesterday. Yeah. And I'm totally okay with just not taking any trades if it's just looking totally garbage still. Definitely want to focus on protecting capital and not being over eager to take random or low quality trades. summer. It's coming up on July 4th. It's just a very typical low volume, low excitement time in the market. So no, Jeff asked if I look at large resting orders on the heat map on Bookmap and mark those as key levels. No, large resting orders don't mean anything to me until I actually see them get filled and see price react around it. Just the fact that there's resting orders there doesn't mean anything to me. The caveat to that is, like, if I see a prior high, prior double top, double bottom, etc. type of thing, and then I see a lot of resting orders below that popping up, then I will keep that in mind, not as like an entry or key level. It will be more so as a target for if I find, like, see there's a prior high, I see a lot of resting orders on the heat map there, and then we drop down, then I will look at that as like stop losses and stuff where there's a lot of resting liquidity, and I'll probably use that as a target if I find a different area to get long on a pullback. Do I have any settings on my footprint chart to identify imbalances, or just look at the numbers and delta? Just the numbers and delta, Lee. I don't have any indicators at all that tell me anything other than just the price and volume. The less noise, the better. If you see, like, I have pretty minimal levels on my charts. I have pretty minimal noise confusing my judgment. I just have price and volume and very basic, like you guys see, let go through. I do have more in-depth stuff that I do look at as far as technical analysis wise, but really for my game plans, like I'm showing with you guys, it's pretty basic stuff, just looking at the overall market structure, supply and demand areas, support and resistance areas, key trend lines that form patterns like wedges, pennants, bull flags, bear flags, etc. Just pretty basic stuff. And then I use order flow and price action around that I have my own unique ways. A lot of influence from Investitrade and Carmine in there, and Dylan, but I do have a lot of my own ways of looking at things and doing things and getting entries around stuff. And so that's kind of the bread and butter, and the analysis and everything is pretty simple. Everyone can do that. Yep, highs and lows, opens and closes. You know, it's the market goes from expanding periods to consolidating periods. And so you just identify where it's consolidating, where it's expanding, where there's a lot of liquidity resting, and you know what the overall structure is, and then align setups that make sense and get good high risk versus reward setup entries based on order flow. All right, so market's just about to open. I'm going to switch the screen over to Bookmap so we can watch that. See here, trying to move my picture to a place that's relatively out of the way. Yeah, real strategy is your mindset, your patience, your discipline. There's a lot of buy orders up here. Just looking at this is interesting. Right here at these highs on that quick pump above. We'll see if that keeps rallying or not. You know, I prefer to get in on a pullback and not just jumping in when there's a lot of excitement because risk versus reward is lower, just tends to get swept out. But if we do see a lot of momentum in buying here to go break out these highs, which we're seeing right this very second, we'll see if we get some excitement off this, and then if we pull back into it, if it holds. You guys can see how I have my settings. It automatically cleared out my DOM on the 9:30 open, so I can see this information as it builds real time. Oh, are you guys cool to learn from me if I take off my suit? It's getting a little hot. Jokes, guys, jokes. Let's keep it light. Still getting a lot of buying coming in. Right off the rip, just a lot of buying. Not a lot of price movement, just a lot of buying. 312 lots, 379 lots. Hasn't really seen a big jump in price. Really, really reminiscent of yesterday's open. How do you auto set the DOM to clear? If you look under the DOM Pro settings, there's a checkbox that you can click to clear at the regular trading hours open. YM is taking off. I in the past have looked at YM occasionally. Oh shoot, yeah, it is. Holy crap. So that is a delta between the indices. What is NQ doing? NQ is kind of dropping. So kind of mixed signals here. NQ is dropping pretty hard. Not pretty hard, but decently hard. ES is flat. No surprise there. And YM is taken off. Interesting. I say that, and I am an ES trader, but damn it, it seems like so often ES can just be so flat when YM and NQ are doing stuff. Yeah, I sometimes do look at other things as well, like SPY, VX, YM, NQ. I haven't looked at YM in a while, to be honest, though. 99% of everything I need to do is just right there on the ES chart and the order flow. But this could be kind of a sticky situation, though, for ES, with NQ being heavy, YM being strong, and ES just kind of right in the middle. That's kind of a sticky situation. The best breakouts and trends are when all of the big indices are all moving. So if we see all three indices breaking out and strong, then you know very high probability we're about to get a nice move, a nice trending move. Yeah, NQ and YM are almost inverted right now. Yes. So certainly mixed signals. When you see NQ weak, YM strong, and ES in the middle, it makes you very iffy about chasing a breakout on ES. It can work, but you just want to be cautious because risk reward becomes not so great, and probability becomes not so great when there's not a clean, clear direction with all three indices breaking out. What time frame is my book map using? It's I constantly adjust it throughout the day, but you can see these intervals here on the bottom. Right now I have it about 2-minute spacing. But the bubbles that come in are like live real time in the market. There's not really any time frame for those. That's just live orders coming into the market every tick. But I can see it a little bit more as close as I want or as zoomed out as I want. But I generally look at this spacing down here. I usually keep this spaced out just enough that I can see about a tick or two spacing. And then I keep the bottom spaced out. Really depends on volatility. The higher the volatility, the more I'll zoom out. But for the most part, generally right around this 2-minute range, which is probably one of my favorite time frames for the candle chart as well. Intraday is 2 minutes. Or maybe I'll zoom out a couple more ticks to around this 5-minute. And if we're really at a key level of interest, and I'm really, really watching every order that pops in, then I'll maybe go down to like 30-second interval here. So to answer your question, Josh, I'm constantly adjusting it throughout the day depending on the situation. But just as a general rule of thumb, I like this 2-minute interval right here. And I'm just talking about the spacing at the bottom. The bubbles that come in are just not any time interval. It's just as the orders come into the market. Yeah, looking at my range bars on my 5-point footprint chart, very flat, very sideways. So very, very reminiscent of yesterday morning. It makes it tough because if we go shoot up and break out the highs now, it's hard to chase that. And if we, it's hard, to me, it's hard to get in here speculating that we go take out the highs. I need to see a pullback first and see sellers get trapped down at the lows first. I do sometimes take like momentum setups, especially in the morning. Like I think some people call it like an opening range breakout, where they'll like mark a range on a candle chart. I don't look at it that way, but if I see, a lot of good momentum on the opening with like absorption from one side and aggressive participants from the other side, I'll look for a pullback into that right in the first 10 or 5-10 minutes. And I'll catch that long on a pullback when I see it getting hit by aggressive orders. But when we open sideways like this, that's not really that kind of setup. Just lacking direction. Yeah, let me flip my screen over really quick to show you guys, just because there's nothing going on, but I'm going to take a trade right here anyway. Show you what I'm watching as far as the indices. Like, so right here and here we have NQ on top, YM on the bottom, almost like exactly inverted. But I would say YM looks stronger than NQ looks weak. So I still think the best chance is to continue to look for longs. And in fact, if NQ does bounce, since ES is just kind of sideways, if NQ takes out one of these little lows down here and does bounce, then ES could probably take off with YM. I think if NQ gets any kind of support and starts bouncing nicely, then ES might rip with YM. We'll see. Yeah, I can even see on my end here that the stream does not look quite as clear as doing it directly from YouTube, which is unfortunate. So maybe I'll cancel my subscription on this StreamYard thing and I'll try OBS again and see if it's clearer from OBS. Yeah, lots of buying up here so far, no follow through. NQ is still dropping, so. I think if NQ maybe goes and tests some demand around yesterday's close, right? Those pivot points that I just kind of marked on the chart that you guys saw around 22,493 to 22,488. If NQ goes and dips in there and finds some nice support, and we'll see what happens. We can see the order flow here on Bookmap for NQ. I always have that up too, so I can switch over. Yeah, a lot of sharp buying here, aggressive buying 2 times, and really went nowhere, and we're coming back down here again. A lot of selling on NQ. But if it finds a bottom and starts to rally, then that could be a nice indicator for ES. Yes, NQ is a lot more tech weighted for sure. But I'm not just taking a trade just because I see something on NQ. I do like that bit of absorption there right at the low and then bouncing. It's just above that 22,493 level that I mentioned. So close to that. Literally just called that level 22,493. We came 3 points away from it on NQ. That's nothing. And shooting up. But I need to see stuff specifically on ES too. And let me switch over again. Sorry, I'm shuffling through here. I'm just trying to show you guys everything that I'm watching since I'm not looking to enter right at this moment anyway. When I see a range looking this flat on ES, this is the flattest opening 15 minutes I've seen in a while on ES. So that tells me, and it's also right in the middle of this range that I marked out. Like these are 5-point range bars. It has just flatlined in here. So I'm not looking to get involved in that right at the moment. So if ES, breaks out of this, and Q did bounce like literally within a couple points of that level that I called out. So if ES can now get strong and show us, there is a ton of buying up here. Just look at the size of the buying at the highs and the size of the selling at the lows. Relatively large buying at the highs, relatively weak selling at the lows. right? That's clear. Now, does this buying get whoa? Does this buying get rewarded or does it get smoked? And it just got smoked so far. So let's see what happens here. Trump, the NATO summit yesterday was great. I assume that's a headline reaction. I don't see any news surfacing yet, but I'm sure we'll see something momentarily. Or, you know, it could just be that can occur when the volume is very thin and then it just hits a breaking point. I think people call that like a tape bomb. Trump once again declared they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Yeah, I still look at first squawk. That's what I have up. Yeah, and that is another reason why I'm very, very cautious of getting in trades when the tape is this thin like that. Like imagine you saw all that buying up here and you just got in that because you wanted to speculate that it was going to break out. The problem is the tape is just so thin. Like some doesn't take a lot of orders at all to just trigger a bomb like that to go sweep through a ton of liquidity. The streaming thing that I'm using right now is called StreamYard. This is the first time I'm using it today. I just got it to try it out. But if it's not working so great, then I'm going to probably go try OBS again. Or just go, what do you mean you look at to see how thin or thick the tape is? Just the orders on the order book, you can see are way less than 100. It's mostly just in the 30s and 40s here and here. And then also just how low the volume is. Like we can just see clearly how low the volume is today. There is more buying in this first 15 minutes this morning than there was yesterday, though. A little bit more buying than we saw yesterday as far as just volume. About the same as 2 days ago, roughly. So there is a lot of buying, a decent amount of buying, but still kind of relatively low volume here in this first 15 minutes. So going to continue to be patient. This all-time high-ish trading can be tricky and very severe test of patience. NQ is all the way back down at those levels. Yeah. You can see all this positive delta stacked up here at the highs. NQ is now totally dipped under those levels that I marked, leaving a little bit of a wick. It's testing those that closing price consolidation area from yesterday now. So we'll see what happens there. Nice bit of drop here. See what happens. We're coming down to test those lows around that 61.59 area that I mentioned this morning. Have that level marked. We didn't take out that low though, that impulsive news low around 61.57. So it's a little tough to get in here. But given the amount of volume that we transacted at the highs, there was a lot of volume built up at the highs. I would not be surprised at all to see us go back up to those highs in the near future. There's a lot of volume built up there. See this resting order here. This bid got filled at 61.60. You can see after that got filled, selling kind of dwindled down a bit. See if we pull back into here, what happens. It may just, squeeze straight higher again now. But really dropping that much already, I would really like to see a dip under that impulsive news low now. Just given that we've already consolidated and dipped down here. Like this might hold and it might bounce from here, but I would rather see a larger drop now into that key area that I mentioned in the morning, 61.50, 61.47 area. That would be better. But it might shoot up from here. But so far, this is like very, very similar to what we saw yesterday morning. We saw that initial dip right around the same time, 10 a.m. It bounced back up towards the highs again, and then it dropped lower until it hit that key level later in the day around 1:30. Not that the same thing is going to happen today. Who knows? Something different could happen. Got in long at 61. That's a pretty nice entry. If you want to see that level hold down there, we did see this get filled. Personally, just given the weakness that we're seeing, and how slow and small the range is, I was kind of sitting out of this. I'd rather see some aggressive buying come in and pull back into it and hold around here. I didn't want to just jump in it on the first go up here. But we'll see what happens. There's a lot of buying coming in here. We'll see if it gets rewarded or if there's more passive sellers stepping in here. Couple people jumped in long at 61s. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look bad. Doesn't look bad. It's just not quite A+ for me. Yeah, I just at this point with the amount of volume we've seen, I do think there's a very good chance we go and return to these highs around 61, 68, 61, 70. If we break out of them or not, I don't know, but I just think there's a good chance we return up there. However, that being said, I'd rather see a further drop at this point just because we are still in this consolidation range between 61.59, 61.70. We did kind of test the wick of that impulsive news drop, but it could work. It's just not super A plus for me, but this might work and it might go rally from here. It's just a little tough with the volume and volatility being so low this morning. I like to see a setup develop where it's like, even if I don't want to trade, like I just have to put risk on for this because it all aligns. The quality is good. The confirmations are fantastic. Like I would be stupid not to get in this. Even if it's a loss, like I would feel good about jumping in it, like because it just looks great. And I didn't feel like that. Somebody said there's some news at 10 a.m. I wasn't really tracking any other significant news. Pending home sales. Medium news. Yeah, if we had a nicer, stronger drop into that key area below that impulsive news drop, and I saw good confirmations there, the risk versus reward would have been so high because, like I said, I do have well, we're almost there now, but I had a relatively strong conviction that we would return to this 61, 67 to 70 area just because of how much volume was transacted up here. I just felt there's a good chance we're going to go back there again. But like I said, I would wanted to see it drop down here. There's a lot of buying coming in here. So that might have just been one that I missed. And that's all good. Still relatively smaller selling on this dip down here, like a lot of big buying up here and then just kind of impulsive small weak selling on this sweep down here. You had that tape bomb here and then smaller. There is more selling. It was a little bit more heavier selling coming in after that right here, but still just much smaller compared to the buying that we saw this morning. Yeah, there's just been not a whole lot of pullbacks. If there's an typically been like impulsive moves, and then once it gets going, it just goes, and there's just not been kind of like that a lot of opportunities to get in after. But it's important to stay very disciplined to your setup and system and not chase moves and not change things too much. Like, yeah, we need to adjust to the market conditions, but don't want to take like random trades outside of the system and confirmations and things that we like to do just because the market is moving. Yeah, nice trade, Jay. Music. 11 points, done for the day. That was a good trade. I was a little trigger shy down here, to be honest with you guys. Just not quite as much as a dip that I wanted to see, but it did work out. It did work out. We filled this bid here. Selling got weaker, and then buying started stepping in. So that was a good trade. Obviously, it worked. That was a good trade. Yeah, but this is what we've seen a lot lately is consolidation, and then pretty low volatility. And once it gets moving, it doesn't really give a good pullback or anything to get in and be a part of it with risk versus reward. That makes sense. Switch back over and see what's going on. Yeah, so at the same time that ES made those lows, NQ bounced right off that area that I was mentioning this morning, that if NQ bounced off of it, then ES might rip. And that's exactly what happened. So all three indices now are looking up. So let's see if we get some momentum and a pullback to get in. So if all three indices are now flipping green and we're looking like a strong uptrend scenario, then that's a context shift. Again, we had all this volume built here and a lot more on this breakout here. We'll see if this fakes out or if this sustains. If we fake out and reject back lower into the middle, that would suck. But if we see a nice pullback hold up here now where all this volume transacted around 68, problem is just seeing a lot of buying. Like I'd like to see some sellers try to reject it and fail. We'll see what happens here. But all three indices are starting to move higher now. NQ is still under the pre-market highs though. It just took out the regular trading hours high right around 22,566. But if all three indices, like I said, start breaking out the highs and start moving up, then that's a good uptrend scenario. And we'll see if we get a little pullback into this that makes sense to get in on ES. Still more buying coming in here. So let me watch this closely here. So I like this area. Let's see. I like this area here that we're just testing. There's a larger bid resting here at 61.67. And I like how we are also breaking back above that area that kind of taped bombed. See if we get any kind of little impulsive move where buyers step in. Impulsive pullback where buyers step in. It's a 497 lot positive delta built now at 69.50. You don't want to see all this aggressive buying get trapped. You want to see weak selling into it and rebidding it and rebuying it again for a nice breakout of the highs. selling is just so small and weak here. We'll see. I just don't see any buying right at the moment stepping into it. Let's see. So flipping slow. It's just making me hesitant to click into it. And we did sweep out those highs. It's just kind of freaking a little bit 50-50. We touched that bid here and it's still holding, which kind of shows some intent. We just touched that bid and it's still holding. So buyers want to be involved there. It's just tough, not really seeing any aggressive buying, and it's just so slow that it's tough for me to click buy. See what happens. Like just pretty small buying here. Rather see a larger passive buyer trap some sellers here if we're going to really go take out and trend higher. And this is basically just speculating that we're kind of building pressure for a high update breakout. But if we reject much lower here, we're kind of right at the low of this zone now that I was watching, then I want to be cautious that this is just another high update fake out and we're just going to sit right in the middle of this range. So that bid got filled there. See if buyers want to step in with some aggression or not. And YM, which was the strongest, is dropping back down and testing the pre-market highs now, which you'd want to see bounce. So YM, which was the strongest, is pulling back to a spot that you'd want to see buy. ES is right in this area of high volume where there was a lot of buyers that you'd want to see. So I may take a little stab at this here just because risk is small, and we'll see if we do get that continuation to the upside. But I will say I don't love how we took out these highs and rejected. I do like that we're consolidating right here where we saw all of this buying. I want to see it hold. But again, mixed signals. So 400 plus lot negative delta building right here on this pullback at 68s. Then 200 lots above and below it. So a good amount of selling stepping in here now. We'll see if passive buyers can continue to take it or not. There's just not much aggressive buying stepping in yet. But YM is starting to bounce off that pre-market level. All right, I took a stab here at 68. I'm going to have a very tight stop loss, like just under 67, where those trap sellers are. It's kind of like now or never. So right here is where I'm in. After this got filled, right in this box that I had marked. YM is bouncing off the pre-market highs, which was the strongest leading indice. So it's worth a little bit of risk. It's like a 1.5 point risk. And if we go break out the 70s, 73 would already be 2.5 or no, 1.5 point risk. So even if we just break out 73 briefly, I'll scale out and that'll already be 3R. And then we'll hold runners to see if we want to trend higher up into those 6200s. And if this rejects here back into the middle, guys, I'll probably reassess my life choices. So YM is still bouncing. ES is given a little bit of a pullback here, but YM is still leading, bouncing. And NQ is moving up a bit too. So now ES is lagging a bit. If NQ and YM can start pumping and pull ES up, then this might look good. And if it can't, I might cut this pretty quick. Maybe it wants another drop lower. If there's one thing that I've noticed lately, it's just you have to be so flippin' patient just holding these things because it has just been so slow. So that's what I'm trying to do here. If we get a nice little pump here, I might scale out as soon as it slows down. But yeah, if there's one thing that I've noticed lately, it's just this has been really slow and you have to be really patient. So we saw this larger selling in this box that I marked that I wanted to see. And on this retest back in here, we saw weaker selling. So we're seeing the stuff that I want to see. I would not want to see this go break under these 67s. The question is only now is, do we get the continuation? We got the entry confirmation at the location. It looked good. Now, do buyers continue to step in or not? It's kind of out of our control. And I will likely go break even with my risk now. I don't want to see this buying fail up here at around 68. I'll try to give it a smidge of breathing room, but I'm not going to hold this red if we just get smoked down and this buying gets trapped. Because we already got the bounce off my entry. We already retested it and held, and we're bouncing again. I wouldn't want to see this buying get trapped, double top, and smoke down lower. There's a lot of buying coming in up here at the highs. I want to see that rewarded with a breakout of the highs, not a rejection back lower. There's a lot of 500 lots, 200 lots, 200 lots, 200 lots, 200 lots. So there is a lot of buying coming in at these highs. NQ is still green on the 15-minute going up, pulling back slightly. I just don't want to see this get smoke checked and move lower. I want to see it bounce. I want to see the buying that's coming in here at the highs rewarded with a breakout. I got in preemptively to a high of day breakout, just based on everything that we've talked about here, speculating that we will go breakout. But, you know, if the market tells me I'm wrong and these buyers are not strong enough, I'm not going to bag hold this for a drop down into the middle of the range. Again, it looks like YM and NQ are both bouncing relatively stronger now. So just need ES to follow suit here. Again, I'm up like 3.5 points on a 1.5 point risk. So very tight risk, very small scalp. And if it drops quickly, there's nothing stopping me from re-entering. YM is definitely leading up now. See if ES can get some juice. There's some buying coming in. We see that right there. See if it can get rewarded. Here's that pump. May scale out for 5 or so points if we slow down up here. Again, 5 points seems silly, but it was only like a 1 point risk. All right, so we're breaking out of these highs. I'm holding. Let's see. Holding. All right, I'm going to scale out half on that slowdown. Is that like 4 3/4 points? Risk is break even now for sure. It's already, you know, a 3.5 hour trade. So like barely a 1 point risk trade. Feels almost silly, but this range is so slow. So, but now scaled out, and I have no problem just holding and see if we want to go trend higher today now. If we do go trend higher, then and all the indices break out and we go break out all-time highs, contract adjusted, we're positioned for that trend. Because really, if I was going to stay in a position to trade, I would want to be in a bit smaller size to just hold that for a trending move. So we're good now. Scaled out for 4.5 points on the high of day test. Like I said, on a 1.5 point risk. Can't even do mental math here with that. Generally for me, I look to have at least 2R on trades. Ideally much better, like 4 or 5R multiple. So that's 3R. 4.5 points on a 1.5 point risk is already 3R. Just very small scalp, but those are the conditions right now. Very slow, very small range. Nothing to write home about, just wallet patter. We're seeing a lot of negative delta here, right where I scaled out 300 lots, 324 lots. So that might reject lower and this trade might not work out. And I just took a little tiny wallet pattern today and we'll survive to trade another day. Or this might break out and trap these sellers at the highs. You can see right here after this large buying, it dwindled up. Once I saw this large buying hit at the highs and then just kind of dwindle up here, that's where I scaled out somewhere. I don't know where it was on Bookmap, but right up here above 72. And again, I was in from 68 on a 1 point risk. I should have been in larger. I should have been in like 4 or 5 contracts because the risk was so small. But with doing the live streams right now, I'm just kind of keeping my risk super small. So I just got in 2 contracts just to relieve some pressure, doing this in front of 160 people. It does, I'm not going to lie to you guys, it does add some pressure on me. YM is, man, definitely the strongest of the bunch. NQ is at the highs as well, going for the pre-market highs. If NQ can now go break out its pre-market highs, I just don't see a whole lot up here stopping this thing from really accelerating higher towards that 6,200. The question is just that, is the entry good enough before getting like swept out lower because of how slow and small the volume is? Thanks, Josh. Said doing an awesome job at the play-by-play. Yeah, hopefully you guys are getting some good value out of this. But yeah, typically on like a 1 or 2 point risk like that, that would have been more like a 4 or 5 contract trade for me based on like my standard risk that I take usually right now. Here we go. Here we go. Come on. So two things when we're up near all-time highs like this, and I am positioned in a long that I was able to get in before the breakout occurs. Two things: either one, I target like a key level from the all-time highs, but we're under like that 6,200 on the contract adjusted is a level that I'm watching. It's also a big whole number to watch. And then the other thing would just be if and when like the tape slows down and rejects. Unfortunately, the tape's just not really speeding up a whole lot up here, which makes me just want to get out of this thing, because normally with seeing a lot of excitement come in, you'd really want to see more large excited buying chasing up here. And it's hard to tell if and when it's going to slow down, because the whole thing is just kind of damn slow. So we see these large resting offers up here, 78 and 80. Maybe that's a good target. We'll watch that and see if those get filled and react, then maybe those will just be the target. I'm close to wanting to trail my stop now and just guaranteeing that this is a 5-point trade, full size, but I'm just letting it breathe. I would rather see larger, more excited, aggressive buying coming in up here at these highs. But lately, we've just been seeing a lot of just kind of grind higher that just kind of builds, and it's hard to get a feel for the pace of the tape, like when you should scale out on the breakout to the upside. It's slowing down here a bit. We saw some bigger buying, and now it's slowing down again. But all three indices are moving higher. NQ is still under the pre-market highs, but the fact that all the indices are now moving higher at this current moment, and we're kind of positioned in this much lower, makes me feel better about holding this move. Tesla and Apple are both red now. Okay. We'll see if NQ doesn't care and it just goes and takes out the pre-market highs anyway. If I see anything like crazy or spontaneous, though, that I don't like, I may just take this trade off and call it a day. It's up almost 8 points on a 1 and change point risk, like 1.25 point risk. So it's a balance between being patient and also not being an idiot to hold a trade back to zero. Yeah, take profit at the highs. If I see a nice sweep at these highs where these bids are, I'm looking to exit this trade. Here we go. Here's some momentum. Let's go fill these guys. Getting filled. Finger on the trigger. It's a good bit of momentum coming in here. Now I'm looking for if it slows down or fails, because there's more momentum and aggressive buying coming in. So I'm looking for this to break. NQ is very, very, very close to its pre-market highs. This offer is really trying to reject here. But buying is staying in. One more little pump here. Let's see if it goes. There we go. There we go. There we go. Keep going. All right. I'm out. I think 14 points there. Happy Thursday, guys. So we filled those bids that I talked about, or not bids, sorry. We filled these offers that I was targeting. I was patient. I was patient. I let it break. I let it break. I could keep holding this. I could keep holding this. This is a scenario. And if I was in more than 2 contracts, I would keep holding this. But it's a little tougher because I'm only in 2 contracts, which doesn't really give me a ton of ability to scale. And that's just the downside of trading small because I'm doing these live streams with you guys. If I was in more contracts, I'd scale out again here and keep holding. But I'm in 2 contracts. I took my scale outs at my targets. You know, if you're in more than contracts than this, and you're trading micros or something, like look what this looks like on the candle chart. Let me flip this over and show you guys. I mean, this thing is still pumping. I just took it off when we filled these offers and slowed down here. I'm out. That way I'm scaling out. What was that, like 14 points, I think, or maybe 13 points where I got filled. Again, on 1 point risk, like 1.25 point risk. Yeah, I could trade 20 MES, but it's kind of annoying and fees are so high for trading so many micros. I just don't, because honestly, I don't even like looking at the MES charts, and I like being able to trade on the same chart. And I prefer looking at just the ES charts. They generally change the same, but the order flow can be slightly different. So yeah, there's a couple things. So yeah, if I was in 4 or 5 contracts, like I should have been with a 1 point risk, then I would have probably scaled again here and maybe kept holding. But in that scenario, guys, where I scale out, I'm not going to hold that whole trade back to 0. I would continue to trail the rest of the position that I'm holding to where it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? That way, yeah, I might not maximize 100% profit on any one given trade, but I'm maximizing profit over the next 100 trades, if that makes sense. I'm managing the trade to let the market see what it will give me, and over 100 trades, then I'm optimizing for that. You know what I'm saying? I'm never going to perfectly optimize the maximum profit on just one individual trade. And occasionally that'll happen. You catch the very high and the very low, and that's it. But that's rare. So you have to think about optimizing your scaling and your risk management for a data set of 100 trades, where some go to multiple targets, some go to partial targets and come back break even, and some lose right away. So you have to kind of balance that whole data set of like 100 trades, what the varying results could be, and then manage your risk accordingly. So for me, and I kind of learned this from Dylan in Investa Trade. So shout out to Dylan. I like how he manages risk. And so even though my trading system is more similar to scalping the way Carmine does, I do have a profit-taking strategy that scales depending on conditions. It's super important. If I'm scalping, let's see, a fake out of a consolidation range, I'm going to get all in and all out. But if the direction is trending up, like I've been talking about all morning, we're trending at the highs, all 3 indices flip green, then that is a scenario where I'm looking to take partials and leave them on and trail my risk and let the market tell me how much is enough. But obviously, I did a blend of that today because I was only trading 2 contracts. So I did a blended scale out and trail my risk, and then take it all off at the highs on that break. And so far, I haven't really given anything back. I scaled out right at the highs because these offers got filled. As soon as they got filled and we went above them, I waited for it to slow down. So as soon as we got above 80, this offer that I called out that I was targeting, we swept above these 78, 80, and then it slowed down, and I exited here above 80. Hopefully that all makes sense for you guys and you got some value out of this. let me show you really quick on the candle chart what I was talking about. And so if some people don't have order flow and you're just trying to gauge what I'm talking about based on price action on a candle chart, let's take a look at this. So you can kind of see similar stuff, although not as granular and not as accurately as you can with order flow like on Bookmap. But you see just pure price action. We had this buildup at the highs, the pullback could not sustain. And this is where it's really great with order flow, because just looking at this, like I got in here like at like 67, 75, 68. Like there's not a ton on the candle chart that would tell you to get in there for a high up day breakout. Like you could speculate, but to me, I don't see much at this moment, like not seeing the rest of this, just seeing this. What is that? A pin bar candle. That's kind of bearish. We popped, rejected, popped, rejected. Right at this moment here where I entered, it's not a ton. But if you did see this and you were, looking at this kind of V-shaped bounce here, and you say you got in on the pullback, speculating we go break out the highs with a stop loss under the low, you might not have as high a risk versus reward, but you can trade that with price action only. When we broke out above this high, when I see that excessively large breakout candle and then it slows, and maybe we can see this better on a 1 minute. This is a 2 minute. Yeah, see how we're like building pressure, leaving wicks down here, leaving wicks, and then we just explode up. And if you're watching time and sales, you can see those large orders get filled. That is, to me, once we do that explode up and then we kind of flatten out, that's my scale out. Just pure price action, not looking at really the order flow as granular. Again, I think it's harder to maximize risk versus reward like that. You really cannot be as precise as you can like I am with order flow. But yeah, hopefully that makes sense for y'all, because I know a lot of people just don't have the tools to do all the order flow or the screen speed real estate. I mean, I'm sharing it here, so hopefully you guys can see it on Bookmap, but highly recommend that tool. And if you just have Thinkorswim, I think there is actually there's right here. I have it on here as well, but there's a free or much discounted, cheaper option, especially if you just trade the indices for this built-in Bookmap. Okay, it used to be the indices that you could trade for free. Now it looks like it's offering NVIDIA and Meta for free. You'll have to look into the pricing for this. It's not as good as the full Bookmap application, but this may be a cheaper option that you can get it just for ES or just for NQ or just for YM, whatever you trade. Cool. Does everybody make sense on that before I wrap up for the day? Any other questions about that trade? Again, over like almost $1,000 reward on that on a like $125 risk. And that's just with 2 contracts. Ideally, if I wasn't doing the live stream, I would have probably taken that with about 4 or 5 contracts. So I just gave you guys like over $1,000 by doing this live stream. Because, but no, it's good. It's good for me to size down doing this so I can be a little bit less emotionally invested to the money and explain things to you guys. No suit needed. I've probably made that guy's salary in that trade. All right. Cool. Don't matter. Process what matters. Helping people. Cool. James Bond, clearly a millionaire. No, I'm not hating on the guy. I mean, I think he's just being funny, being a troll. I thought it was funny to react and throw on the suit jacket, because I do have a suit, because at one time I did work for somebody else. Yeah, I went over volume profile a little bit this morning and what I was watching with that, as far as especially for looking at just areas of low volume. If you're not an invested trade, Carmine just added a really good section just on talking about low volume nodes and things like that from the volume profile. Appreciate it. Daniel said lots of value. Turned out to be a perfect exit too. Yeah, sometimes it works that way. Like all I can do is just optimize and get out where, but again, it would have been a little bit tougher without seeing the order flow. And maybe this thing consolidates and then it moves another leg higher, but that's okay. I got my piece. It's like 10R trade almost, like not, I think like a 9R trade. I'll pull it into TradeZella and I'll post a recap for you guys so I can actually see the data on it. But just mentally, I think it was about a 9R trade. So yeah, and being able to really see it on the order flow clearly to really maximize precision and risk versus reward is really helpful. Do you just do one and done trade for the day and done on a day like this? For sure. Yeah. I mean, sometimes when volatility is really good and I'm seeing lots of opportunities, I'll take multiple trades. But when it's been this slow, I've been here I've been on this live stream with you guys for almost 2 hours. And I was on the charts at like 5 a.m. this morning reviewing things. And then I went for a run and then I came back. So I'm already like 2 hours invested into just this trading session. And mentally, you just as a performance, whether it's an athlete or whatever, like from a mental performance aspect, you decline after like 90 minutes. And so if I continue to push it, there's more and more risk that you're going to make not less than ideal decisions just because you're mentally declining, especially for the way that I trade, which is very active, watching the order flow every tick. You know what I mean? Like the mental exertion is high. I'm training for an ultra marathon in November, which is just a 50K, but right now, like 5 to 10 miles a day. Do you know what things Carmine is adding to InvestTrade? He just added sections on low volume nodes and some other zero print stuff, some volume and volume profile type stuff with order flow, which I use a bit, and I use it in different ways too. Yeah, it's in the accelerator, Ricky. Cool. Thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate it. If you just drop a like and share, as always, that's helpful. Gets more people in here, more people providing value. Like I said, I don't have anything to sell you. I'm not doing anything paid right now. I get asked probably a dozen times or more a day if I'll do like paid coaching and that kind of stuff, maybe something in the future. But I'm just sharing what I'm doing already anyway, just to give you guys some free value. And so I appreciate it if you drop a like, share it so more people join in and they can get the same value that you are. Yeah, Daniel, one more question. That's cool. Yeah, we are rejecting from this point too. Just looking at the order flow, and you can clearly see it on the candle chart as well. So wow, what an exit right there at the highs above 80. So like I said, in-person 1 week boot camp. I don't know. That's a lot. Where do I source all my news from? First Squawk on X is usually where I look for intraday headlines that come out. I just keep that up. I have a page on my screen where I just keep that up. And then for like being aware of when news comes out, I look at the Bloomberg just economic calendar. Both links I just commented on the chat. I don't know if they're clickable though. You'll probably have to copy or just make a mental note of them. But First Squawk on X is like where I just watch like intraday headlines that come out. And then when I'm doing my pre-market analysis in the morning, I always make a note. I check the economic calendar on Bloomberg and make a note of when any key data releases are, key news events. And I really look at that for the whole week and the next week out, just so I'm aware of like when FOMC is coming up, when NFP is coming up, because I can barely remember what I said 5 minutes ago, much less what's happening in the next week or two. Yep, you're welcome, Daniel. All right, cool. Lots of good questions today. Good stream, good trade. I'll post a recap on Instagram. Looks like it's rallying back up towards my target now. But again, I already caught my piece, about a 9R trade. Hopefully you guys were able to catch some good stuff with the analysis, or at least just hopefully it helped you with your own trading. I use the Bookmap Global Plus subscription because it includes add-ons like the DOM Pro that I use. I think I pay like $99 a month or something like that. Yeah, definitely time to enjoy the day. Like I said, it's still early. I'll film a recap and post it online, and then I'm gonna go enjoy the day. Even with doing a live stream, filming a recap, still I'm like, you know, making a good amount of money and then being done for the day before noon. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. Appreciate it, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, drop a like and share. It helps me out. That's all I ask. Peace, everybody. See you guys tomorrow.